evening. But this evening is when I do and answer your questions. So if you've got any challenges or any questions you wish to ask this evening, please feel free and fill in the box, and I'll go now and see if there's been any questions come in already. I've seen some articles over the weekend where people have been disputing that it's impossible to do no money down. So let me talk to you about that. No money down technically means no money in at all. And if you're using the right bridging company and you've got same day refinance set up, then you can repay the bridging on the same day, and that is, if you've got enough discount, no money down, no money left in. Quite often people do mistakenly no money left in, which means putting money in, which isn't the same as no money down. So it's getting that right. Now, on the other hand, I've actually exchanged contracts on quite a lot of properties going back when we were in negative equity. Exchanged contracts on them for £1, and my completion price is the outstanding balance of the mortgage at the time of completion. Now, because they're on repayments, if I leave them long enough, that means that there will be a zero balance on the mortgage, which means I can complete on a zero balance. And that is technically not a no money down deal, but it is swapping £1 for a property that after a 20-year mortgage expires can potentially be worth £500,000. So there you go. Is no money down possible? Absolutely, if you have enough discount and you get your structure right. So if you hear or see anything from somebody who claims any different, they're talking bollocks, but probably out of ignorance. And that again is a technical term which I use quite regularly. So Palmetto sent me a message this morning and said, Glenn, you've kind of called that to kick-start the housing market again after lockdown. A good way of doing that would be to reduce stamp duty or do something with stamp duty. Well, there's been an announcement that Palmetto sent to me that will be official on Wednesday. So thank you for sending me that article, Palmetto. That it'll be announced that properties under £500,000, there will be no stamp duty payable for most purchases. Now, whether that means buy to let, whether that means first properties only, I don't know the ins and outs. I very much hoped that we'd get the extra 3% exempt. So even if that was for investors, that would really kickstart London. London is suffering a lot in the higher value areas because of the 3% extra stamp duty. Not so much Brexit, it was the 3% stamp duty. The rest of England is more the Section 24. But as you know, we've had walkarounds around Section 24. We've had Simon on from a company that specialises in setting you up in a way that you don't have to pay stamp duty to transfer properties and don't have to transfer the mortgages, but you then can get Section 24, you can get interest rate relief on your properties. So that's what the government looks like they're doing. I'd love to see the whole 3% voided for a period of time, and I very much hope that that includes stamp duty, because between me and a couple of partners, we're just in the process of buying 13 flats for around 125 grand a piece, and you know that would save us quite a lot in stamp duty. So Suresh says, is this a better time to go into buy to let, or it's better to wait for market conditions to improve? Suresh, and no disrespect to you, one of my most frustrating questions. Let me tell you a story. I met someone in 2005 and spoke to him. He had about 100 grand to invest. I met him again and he said to me that he was waiting for the next recession before he started investing. I met him in 2009, by which time I'd bought nearly 200 properties. In the time in between speaking to him and then nearly 200 properties. And I said to him, how you been getting on? He said he's waiting for the bottom of the recession. Okay, I then met him a couple of years ago, by which time I'd got over 240 odd properties that I'd bought. They'd gone up in value by nearly 30 million. And he said he was waiting for the next recession. Now he had a similar figure to start with to what I started with. So let me answer that question. The best time to start is either now or 10 years ago. If you didn't start 10 years ago and you only have a choice of now, the time is now. You just need to make sure you're doing the right thing in the right area, okay, so that you come out winning. There, no matter whether in a recession, a boom, a bust, each town has got its own dynamics. You need to understand that. You need to understand a few more bits and pieces, but there is always a right thing to do in a right area at the right time. You've just got to understand and know it, and as long as you understand that, you'll make lots of money. Venus says, how to overcome the distance to travel to view different properties in the country. If you can't travel to view, how can we buy? Just struggling to overcome distance. Vina, you just got to find a different strategy. If you don't have time to travel, or you've got to find a sourcer who you go and visit the first few properties and you trust. I was speaking to someone this morning who's buying 1,000 properties. They've sold a company out. They're actually buying 1,000 properties in a certain town, and they're buying them all cash, paying 50, 60 grand. No capital appreciation, and right at the other end of the country. Hopefully I've put them off and I've got them to buy 110, 120 grand properties that will give them some capital appreciation as well. They were purely after income. But the capital appreciation is where you make your money over a period of time. So you are going to have to overcome the time issue for travelling by having a day off work and going up, travelling early in the morning, driving at 4 o'clock in the morning to get there, driving back at 6 o'clock at night, whatever it takes to, an entrepreneur does what it takes for a short period of time in order that he can live a life that nobody else can. You get out what you put in, so you've just got to find a way to make it happen or change your strategy and look nearer home, but with a strategy that will work there. Palmetto says, have you considered using Instagram and Facebook ads to raise financing from investors? I think that there are ways to use Facebook for marketing. For me, Facebook, I only do what I call no money down marketing or no money left in marketing, whatever you want to call it, just the same as property. If you'd like to know how I do that, that's fine, but prior to lockdown I was spending £1,500 a day and getting back £2,500 a day. Ken, if you want me to run an evening or come back with you something like that, let me know, and I could do something with that. It's not property, but it is no money down, no money left in, or I was actually getting more money back than my marketing spend on a day-to-day basis. So to me that's infinity marketing, so that's what I prefer. Mike asks, so that was the considered Facebook ads. Trouble is with Facebook ads, Palmetto, is that you pay for clicks, and you really need to have a relationship with someone before they're going to consider lending money. So it's I think it would be a tall order to raise finance from somebody you've just met on Instagram. Vino says, what areas do you suggest to buy? Vino, that's kind of what, when I run one of my one-day masterclasses, which are free, we talk about for some time, and on my £97 3-day training, which is coming up last weekend of the month, Friday, Saturday and Sunday, I talk about quite a lot, and I think it will be in September when we're able to run our next face-to-face 4-day training, which we most certainly cover which areas, and basically we look at everybody in the room individually, and we can actually look at, making sure everyone's doing the right thing in the right area. Prakash said, how do you save from paying stamp duty if you want to delay completion and keep the property roll and flip? Delay completion, basically, Prakash, the stamp duty is supposed to be paid on the day of exchange, not on the day of completion. At least it used to be. Last time I got barrister's opinion, there was something called substantial performance, and substantial performance is deemed to take place if you start renting the property or you live in it from day one. Then you're supposed to have paid stamp duty on the exchange date, not on the completion date. You can get around that by doing an option, but if you actually want the exchange date and there's no stamp duty, you get the solicitors to pay the stamp on exchange. The solicitors normally pay on completion because that's when people have normally got funds to do it. But the technicality is substantial performance is not assumed to have taken place if you're doing the property up and it's not livable, but you could still ask your solicitor to exchange and pay stamp duty on the day of exchange. That would be definitely a question for the lawyers, and next time Mohit is on, ask that question again, but there we go, that's my take on it. Courtney says, how do you enter a conversation on purchasing property when the executors of the probate want to avoid inheritance tax thresholds? For example, it's worth 400, but they want to put 325 on the books and the rest cash. I would be very surprised if the executors, which are normally solicitors, want to do that. If they're not solicitors, then there probably are. I'd have to think about it. 325. I'd enter in some sort of delayed completion profit share with a third party that they nominate. Might be a way around it. Again, you'd have to check with lawyers, but I'm sure it could be creative. And I'm sure if somebody asked me that question on my training, I'm sure I could get them around it. With the help of the solicitor, just making sure that everything was dead okay. And yeah, Courtney, I would, there'd be a right way around it. You're just going to have to be careful. So, Palmetto, one question I have, if you don't mind. I have a house with a big garden and want to sell the land on. Is there capital gains on the land if planning permission has already been granted? I understand that there would be, as planning has been granted. If you split title and you sell the separate property, depending on whether it's your own property and you've lived there or rented the property, then there's capital gains. But if you've bought it to do up and you're selling on the land, then it just comes within your tax year. So you have to declare it as a taxable profit rather than a capital gain. Again, it'll be a conversation to speak to the accountants or solicitors on, but I think there's two things. If you live there and you sell off a plot of land, I think you do have to pay capital gains. If you split the title first and maybe you kept the house and your wife took the land, that might be a workaround. and if it was a buy-to-let, like I said, or a development project, and you sell it off, then it goes into your tax bracket. So hopefully that answers your question. Kelvin says, I've just started deal sourcing in Reading, Berkshire. How best can I use this strategy in my area? Kelvin, look, most investors that live in higher value areas like Reading, Berkshire, that go to the network events where you need to be going in order to find clients, are looking more for high yield properties. So you need to go to a network event or go an online network event up north and try and find someone up there that can source high value, high yielding properties, and then JV with them, and you find the clients in the high value areas where people haven't got time and can't be asked to travel, and then you can just put the package together. So you can either go to a network event and find someone, or if you're sourcing full time, you're going to spend part of your week up north and part of your week going to network events every night. Alicia says, I think the area we missed is no money, no money. Alicia, I was just saying that read some bits and pieces recently where people are saying that there's no such thing as no money down, that it's not possible. And I think they're also saying that if anyone says differently, they're wrong. Well, I beg to differ. That I think basically I've done them, my clients have done them, and if there's enough discount and the discount exceeds the deposit needed and you structure it in the right way, it is no money down. A lot of the time people do no money left in because they buy them, refinance them, get all their money back out, which is I think what they're making a mistake, because they're not aware of the creative strategies that you can get around it. Also, when we used to be able to buy and refinance on the same day refinance, which you can now using bridging. Again, you can buy no money down if you're buying. Great, so here we go. Here's the thing, come January, we're going to have a fund. It's going to be 65-75% loan to value based on purchase price, not on, based on value, not on purchase price. So if you're buying cheap enough, you can actually borrow more than what it's costing you to buy. Now that is a no money down. My mansion that I bought for was on the market originally for 2.5 million. I got it for 1.8 for various reasons, and part of my negotiation. I was able to borrow 1.782. So I actually put in. It was a 22 grand deposit I put in on a 1.8 million purchase. So that's not a no money down, but it's as good as damn it on a 22 on a 1.8 million pound purchase. So look, if you're buying with enough discount with the bridging fund that we're putting together, you will be able to buy no money down and cover all your costs. So that's what I was talking about, and anybody who says any different just are ignorant, basically. Don't know what they're talking about. Dave Bird says, yes, an evening on infinity marketing strategy would be great. Vinu says, where can we learn how pay-per-click works? I could run an evening with my pay-per-click expert and Facebook marketing expert, two different people, although the Facebook expert does pay-per-click as well. So maybe I'll get them on again and see where we go with that. Vinu says, I've attended 3-day training but I don't recall talking areas to buy. Vinu, we would have spoken on the 3-day training about buying no money left in areas that you purchase around about 60 grand, refurbish and sell. That's areas like Liverpool, like Hull, like quite a lot of the further up north places, compared to buying at like 110, 120, obviously with a discount, where you're going to get around about 5% capital appreciation, but you're buying 120 and you're using discount, the discount for your deposit. So we did speak about it. We may not have particularly specified the areas, but we would have outlined the type of areas where it does work. So Kelvin said, yeah, bearing in mind house prices are very expensive in Berkshire. Kelvin, about sourcing. Yeah, look, there's just not sufficient real deals in an area like there to, unless you're really, really connected with the agents, there's just no money in trying to source properties in high value areas for people. You may find the odd person who wants to buy a few properties, but if you want to create a volume business, I've got two of my clients, both called Nikki, one I-E and one with a Y, one in Liverpool, one in Hull. I can't remember which way round it is, but they're both making around £20,000 a month sourcing properties up north for London, primarily London investors. What if you buy a house with land that is planning and you do a delayed completion on a whole site? Would you pay stamp once the development is completed and sold off? No. No prometto, you wouldn't. You exchange, if you exchange on an assignable contract, or if you do an option on it and you sell it on, the transaction tends to take place between the end user and the new, who's the buyer, and the original source, with your paperwork giving you the uplift in the middle. Courtney says, apparently the solicitor said they can, which surprised me also, Glenn. Alright, Courtney, look, the thing is, if you have got an email from a solicitor saying that something is legal and you do that and it turns out to be illegal, I'm pretty sure that if ever it went to court, you're going to stand a pretty good chance of not being prosecuted. And I know that if you have barrister's opinion, that the barrister's opinion is your get out of jail card. You can't be put in prison for doing something that a barrister's told you it's okay. Whether the solicitor has quite as much meat on the bone, I don't know, but that's why people get barrister's opinion on stuff. And the great thing about the law is it's all about interpretation, so you might get three barristers who disagree, but one that agrees based on a technicality or something. So, Ron Kung says, which company does your solicitor work for you? I've got a few deals going through, can do with this help. No problem, Ron. All my mentees get to use my team, so just email me or text me and tell me what deal it is you've got going through. Horses for courses, some are more technical, slightly dearer, some are cheaper, less technical, so it is horses for courses. I've got about half a dozen different lawyer firms I use. Bisri says, has it been confirmed stamp duty is going to be suspended for the next 6 months? I don't think it's been announced officially. The Chancellor has said that's what he's going to do, and we don't know quite all the details. I think the announcement is going to be officially on Wednesday. I'd like to probably be slightly, big-headed, I suppose is the word, to say that I did say that to kickstart the market that would be a good way of doing it, and I did think that that's what they would do, and I think I called that 12 weeks ago. So it's nice that they are doing what we thought would happen. Gareth says, what's the quickest way to buy properties and do it many times simultaneously? I'm not sure why you'd want to buy lots of properties simultaneously. There's nothing from stop you doing it simultaneously, but if you've got 10 deals lined up, 10 different mortgages with 10 different mortgage companies, it's unlikely they're all going to complete on the same day, but not impossible. And so I think my question to you, Gareth, would be, What are you trying to complete on many properties simultaneously for? Rizwan says, have you or anyone you know managed to get planning permission for commercial to resi in a flood risk zone 3 area? Some units I'd like to convert, but all the local architects, planning consultants, planners won't give permission. What would be the best way forward? Rizwan, I don't know whether it was a zone 3, but I certainly had a property in a flood risk area, and I got round it by doing an undertaking that I would use. On fire properties, there are the intermittent strips, so that when there's a fire and it heats up, the smoke can't get through the door. Well, there's also like a strip where if it gets in contact with water, it swells up and stops the water going through. So you can get them on doors, specialist, you can get them on doors, and so basically up to a certain level of flood zone you can get around it by using them. But we got round it in Nottingham in an area that was a flood zone. I just can't remember what zone it was, what zone rating. Venu says, what is your opinion on the Help to Buy scheme? Not for first time buyers. Someone is offering 20% deposit, I pay 5% deposit and all expenses. I get 100% of rent for 5 years after they charge 1.7% per year, and that's on their bit. Yeah, Venu, that's our people that were on our webinar last week or 2 weeks ago. That's not the Help to Buy scheme. That is a company you're willing to put in 20% of the deposit for a 20% share in a limited company that's buying the property. And the feedback I'm getting from some of my clients who are quite expert in property investing, and they've done their due diligence, is that it's all looking okay. Rizwan is saying there are already 2 ground floor units in the building. Is that the flood one? Yeah, I really don't know, Rizwan, if there are already 2 ground floor units in the building, depending on whether it's on the slope or whatever. I really think it's a planning expert you need, but sometimes you need to prompt the planning experts to say, what about if I used a door with the strip around it, because they don't always remember about that. Paul Charles says, maybe someone close to Boris listens to your webinars. It'd be great if we could get Boris on the webinar one evening, wouldn't it? Maybe I'll drop him an email and ask him. A family wants to get the benefits, this is from Courtney again, a family wants to get the benefits of the refurb as well as the price in its current state. Is there a contract be done to give them money now and give them more once the works are done? And how best would you advise to do this? Yeah, Courtney, I'm going back to my technical term. You exchange contracts with a figure and then give them the balance when you complete or sell it on without ever completing. Obviously you don't want to be giving them too big a lump. My technical term for it is fuck off money. What do I need to give you to go away and let me develop the property and give a profit share? But yeah, that's perfectly easy to get the setup right, and it's exactly what I do, Courtney, for people on my mentorship program, is structure these things for them in the most beneficial and tax beneficial way. It's so easy to get it slightly wrong and totally fuck up. Alright, I had one of my clients a little while ago, and other people have heard this story, call me. I was travelling down to Cornwall to have a look at a project I had down there. He phoned me up and said, Glenn, what would you do about this? And I explained to him what I would do and why I wouldn't do it. And he went, okay, that's what happened to me. Now, he'd been on my training, hadn't joined my mentoring, and he turned around and said, this has just cost me 80 grand. And yes, it cost him 80 grand, and if he'd have paid 8 grand for my mentoring fee, he wouldn't have lost 80 grand. So this is stuff where you've got to be very careful, because it's very easy to get it almost right, but getting it almost right can cost you tens of thousands of pounds. So you've really got to know what you're doing to benefit from this is the best way. Eric says, Glenn, I bought your book and the 4-day stream and want to join the mentoring program. However, these are the challenges that I need to work around. 1, wait to receive my documents from my home office. However, I have a friend that can leverage. Okay, that's no problem as long as you're here legally and you're only talking about the lending. I'm pretty sure we can sort you there. Can work hard to raise 25 to 30 grand, and that's fine. Can spend 5 hours a day. Look, you don't need to be funding the deals, you just need to find them. You've just got to be prepared to give away 50% of them. But I'd much rather do, if you've got enough money to do one deal and get 100% of the profit, I'd much rather do 10 deals and get 50% of 10 deals. How can I leverage your mentorship with the above challenges at the moment, or should I hold on a bit and continue to build up knowledge? Sorry, these are long questions. I don't mind the long questions at all. Building up knowledge for me is getting ready to get ready. And some people get ready to get ready to get ready, and they're never going to start because they want to know everything about everything before they start, and you're not going to. You just need to know enough, and if somebody who's done it before, whether it's me or someone else, hold your hand through it. So yeah, the answer is, Eric, just get on with it. Find or let us help you find JV partners. If you find profitable deals, you will find JV partners. I did have one of my clients saying, Glenn, look, I've been to lots, and this is going back before lockdown, I've had this really great deal. I've been to lots of network events and no one wants to fund it for me. And you told me that I'd always get money for a deal. And when I actually analysed it and looked at it, it wasn't a deal. It was just one that wasn't going to make money. So if there is money in the deal, the money for it will always come, as long as there's enough money to make it worthwhile. Ron says, someone is selling a house with a plot of land that has planning permission to build a luxury 5-bed house. I wanted just to buy the land. How would I make the offer? A 5-bed house is worth around 600 grand. What would I do? What would I offer for the land? Also, it's best to delay completion to buy land or right at the beginning. Can you give us some tips? Look, Ron, how I do my calculation is when I look at buying their property, I add, in fact, look, let's go on here. You've been on quite a lot of my stuff. Let me just come and find you and ask you a little bit more. Look, I'd always want to buy it split title anyway, and flip the property as quickly as possible. But when you work it out, normally you're looking at the cost of the purchase plus the cost of the refurb, adding 20% for costs. That's going to leave you with the plot cost. 9 times out of 10, when you're buying a property with a plot, it doesn't work out viable. Not many of them do, because most people are too greedy for their plot. They're charging you what the plot's worth, charging you what the house is worth, and they're not taking into the fact that you've got costs for buying and selling, which eat up all of the profit you would make. So sitting down with a vendor and explaining that, potentially if it needs work, doing a delay completion with the vendor on the house. But if it is, like I just said, the chances are it won't sell, so I just go back and re-offer every month. But get a one-to-one with the vendor, sit down and explain, how much profit would you think I need to make? Is the negotiation. Ask them, how much profit do you think I need to make if I'm buying this property, building a house there and selling it? And when they tell you, work out the numbers and just show them it's not possible to do that, which is why it's been on the market for 6 or 8 months, because it's the same for everybody. And try and build some sense of reasoning to them, and then make them an offer on a delayed completion they can't refuse, because that's the best one they've ever had. Gareth says, yes, get Boris on. Kelvin says, Glenn, has any of your clients or anyone you know with full-time jobs, Monday to Friday, living and working down south, been able to successfully do deal sourcing, and if so, how? Kelvin, the only way with a full-time job, Monday to Friday, is going to a network event every night, okay, Monday to Thursday. And having a day off, going up north, going to a network there, finding someone to JV with that's going to source, and you be the sales side of the partnership and build a partnership with them. Or go to 3 network events over 3 weeks in 3 different towns, and then specialise in buying properties for people in them towns and sell that at the network events every night. Andrew says, is the fuck off money a small deposit on the whole price? No, Andrew, it's a small deposit. Like the one with the gentleman in South Kensington who had a £3 million house. I've given him 50 grand to go to New Zealand to go spend some time with his sister while I get planning to potentially get a basement under the garden as well and under the next door neighbours, because I've offered them 150 grand for under their garden. So that's expanding on it a little bit. Vinu says, is this Help to Buy scheme, they are only offering new build properties and asking for just the buyback. It's Help to Buy scheme where you've got a 5% deposit. On a 450 grand property, you need to put a 17.5 grand deposit with Help to Buy. On a 400 grand property, you need to put 60 grand down. I think it's the number, 15%. Now, obviously, when you do buy it, you lose 40, 30, 40, 50 grand straight away. So, you know, Help to Buy is really only for people who want help to buy their residential property. Okay, right. That's it. I've caught up with all the questions, and it's pretty much at the 45-minute time. Happy to stay and answer 1 or 2 more questions if somebody types them in. Ron said, can you answer yours? Ron, can you unmute yourself so that I can speak with you about it, so I can find more information? Michael Jones has put a comment that says, I heard a Chancellor's announcement is set for Wednesday, with all limited to residential properties, private buyers only, and not for investors. England only. Wales not saying anything yet. It does make sense that they would only include homeowner buyers and not buy-to-let investors, but if they really wanted to kick-start it, they do it for everyone. I'd love to see them remove the extra 3%, even if they left it where it is. Vinu, your expert said this scheme is okay, but you now said you will lose 30 to 40% straight away. I didn't say 30 to 40%, I said 30 to 40 grand, and it's a totally different scheme. They are not doing the Help to Buy. They are lending you the deposit on properties that aren't overinflated because they have got a Help to Buy scheme. 2 totally different things. Do not get muddled up. The people that came on here a couple of weeks ago and that are lending you 20% of the 20% of the purchase price, and the numbers that you mentioned earlier on, which I can't find because I've got so many questions here. There we go. Hi Ron, you okay? Hi, you're right.
Hello, you okay?
Yeah, all good, thank you. So, just tell me what the purchase price of the property is.
Well, the asking price is $695. So it's been on the market for like a year. It's got a plot from the back that we've got planning to build a 5-bedroom.
Yeah, okay. Look, I understand that, and I'm going to just ask you some quick questions so we can just pile for it. Right. First of all, the reason why it's not sold is because it's not profitable, because the buy-sell cost of the property probably exceed or kill the deal. Yeah.
Yes.
But you're buying both at 695. How much will the house sell for on its own after you've done a refurb? And how much is the refurb?
To build a house, I mean, the end value will be around 600 grand.
Right, okay, so not the one you're building, I mean the house that's with it, yeah?
The house actually is in good nick. It don't need refurbishment,
right.
Really.
So how much is it going to sell for on its own?
It's selling the house.
Yeah, I understand that.
I apologise. The house itself is all right.
Yeah, I understand.
It's trying to sell the house and the plot for 695.
Ron, I understand that. Can you just answer? Listen to my questions, okay?
Yeah.
How much will the house on its own sell separated without the building block? How much will it sell for on its own?
I reckon about 550.
Okay. Okay, so assuming it sells for 550 on its own, if you buy it for 695, okay,
yeah,
your buy-sell costs are going to be about 140 grand. So that means it's going to owe 840, all right? So if it ends up selling for 540, okay, just to round it up, that means the plot is going to owe you 300 grand.
Right,
okay. Now, what size is the house for planning to build on?
Well, I don't know the dimensions, but it says it's got a planning for a 5-bed detached house.
Right. Okay. Well, look. Let's say it's a 2,000 square foot house, which is a reasonably small 5-bed. Yeah. What town is it in?
It's in Plymouth in the southwest.
Right. Okay. So you're probably talking £150 a square foot to build a 5-bed house, reasonable spec. Okay.
Yeah.
So the $10,000 question is the size, but that's going to cost 300 grand to build. Yeah.
Yes.
So if you're paying 300 grand for the plot after you've sold the other one, that's 600, and then you got your buy-sell cost of 120. So it's going to owe 720. So what is the end value of that house that you build?
I know what you're saying. Yeah. It won't be worth 720. That's for sure. Probably like 550, 600 grand.
Right. So if you looked at the property itself selling for 500, yeah, and you're in an area in Plymouth, I would say somewhere around about 280, 300 a square foot, yeah? That's a guess, I don't know for definite. £300 a square foot, you'd want to be paying about 15% of GDV. So if gross development value is 500, that values the land at about 75 grand.
So the land's only worth 75 grand, yeah?
Yeah, if you want to make a profit, that's the land on its own, yeah?
Right, okay.
Alright, so that tells you how much it's out of the way. Now they've probably called it 100 grand and added that to the, 500, 550 or 595. So they think the house is worth 595 and they think the plot is worth 100, so they're selling it for 695.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. And people don't take into effect that there's a huge cost attributed to buying the property and getting rid of it to be left with the plot.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Thanks for that.
All right. No problem. Right. Last few questions, just quickly. Palmetto said, you mentioned when Mo hit was on that I'll get a nominee option type deal. Give you a call so you run through it. How do I get contact with you? Use your number one that ends 949. Yes, it is. Drop me a text, Palmetto, and next time I'm driving, I'll give you the heads up and you can call me when I'm in the car and I'll go through it with you. How to find probate properties, Gulam. Really, I call that ambulance chasing. You if you've got a good network of solicitors, you might get some heads up on deals, but you know they tend to be given to estate agents to sell. It's like repossessed properties used to be the holy grail. There was no way of tracking down a list of all the houses in the UK that were being repossessed. I'm always open to find out if there are. I don't know whether there's a list kept of people who have just died, and you can then track properties down that they own. I don't know whether that's out there, but that's the route I take to do it. But you're better off focusing on ways that I teach of finding property for sale that you can do delayed completions on, or the no money deals up north, depending on where the country you are. Jason says, I'm in Surrey and can find lots of big money probates that have been on the market for a while, so I can get good deals on them, just a bit such hesitant at big deals. Jason, if they've been marketed on the general market, how would you find somebody who wants to buy it at a discount that hasn't already been offered by the locals? Normally, if there's a deal to be had and it's a trade deal, one of the agents would have a friend to call. So I'm intrigued. Ivan says, I have a neighbour with a 3-bed house plus a large detached garage. Working mum can get a small mortgage. Can I offer to build her 2 to 3 flats? She keeps one I rent to, who owns the land. Yes, of course you can, Ivan. And she would own the land until you complete on it. I'd really need a lot more details to see whether it's profitable or not. That's one for the Tuesday Mentee webinar for definite. Ivan says the house worth 550, flats worth 280 each, refurb 60 grand. I don't think you're going to turn a house into 3 flats for 60 grand. Ivan, it's going to cost you around 15 grand for services for a start. But I mean, if it's an absolute perfect layout and it's just a few little bits, but you're going to have 2 new kitchens in, and normally 30 is the minimum start price per flat for conversions, but they tend to go for 50 to 60 grand each when you do them properly. I'm doing one in Norwood at the moment that I'm expecting to run at about 80 grand for a house, turn it into 2 flats. Gareth said, I live in Plymouth, it's too expensive. Not sure what you're saying, it's too expensive for Gareth. Because Plymouth isn't dear enough for many things, and it's not cheap enough for many other things, so it's a bit of a kind of a Milton Keynesy area. So it's kind of stuck between the devil and the deep blue sea. The only thing I do know, when you live on the seaside, your investment area is only half the size of somebody who lives in the middle of the country, because it's just a half circle, not a full circle. Venus says, I've seen quite a few lands, I'm assuming you mean plots. How can I estimate the cost needed to build from scratch? It's normally anywhere between about 130 and £200 a square foot, depending on where you are in the country. Jason's added, find lots of money. Look, probates, brilliant for delayed completions, adding multiple bedrooms, building a big extension on a property in Surrey, where we're talking probably £500 a square foot, is where to go, and that's a brilliant strategy. So, you know, it's just a great way of making money. But you need to do them on delayed completion, so you haven't got the stamp duty and carry cost of a mortgage. Okay, well look, I think I've answered everybody's questions now. Has asked questions. We've also come to very close to 7 o'clock, and I don't normally run till after 7. So tomorrow evening, I do believe I am chatting again to one of my mentee clients who has got, last time I spoke, a £17,000 a month profit doing rent to rent. And he started around 2.5-3 years ago. And on Wednesday I am chatting to Stuart, who's been doing the no money left in, buying properties, no money left in, and he's got himself quite a nice cash flow and not left any money in at all. So he's there, and WD's just said, can you explain the process or delay completion? Carry that over to probably Wednesday when we can look at that in more depth for you. So thanks very much for joining this evening. I hope you've had a good evening. I hope you enjoyed having your questions answered. Take care, have a great evening, please stay safe, and I'll speak to you all again tomorrow.